Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Demonland podcast. My name is Andy, and joining me again tonight, Grapeviney. Good evening, how are you?
I'm well, Andy. Thank you very much, and good evening to all the Demonlanders out there.
Yes, isn't it nice to be back on the winning list? I know I certainly feel a lot better after a win than I do after a loss. I'm sure you're the same, Grapeviney.
The constipation is over. They took some sort of laxative at halftime against the Bombers, and then there was a flood of goals in the third quarter. So it was good to see. Good to see that sort of happen. We sort of got freed up, so it was nice to have a 7-goal quarter. I think it was.
Yeah, you know, I love it when we have one of those quarters. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic feeling, and I think, Grapeviney, I think we're still having that issue we were having a moment ago. Grapeviney's connection seems to be dropping in and out. We're not sure what's causing it, so just bear with us. Hopefully it does improve. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're back. We were back at Etihad, which... you know, in the past has always caused us a little bit of trouble, but it's our fortress, and I think we're a bit better suited at the moment, I think, to Etihad. Do you see, is that the same, are you thinking the same thing, or, you know, can we play like that at the G?
Well, we're not at the moment. I don't think it's a big deal just yet. We have played some good footy at the G, but it's true that we play Etihad really well, you know, which is funny given how long we went without a win there. So, yeah, is it the fact that it's sort of it's identical conditions every time because you've got the roof closed there, so you're not exposed to the elements really at all. So... well, there is
is
it the ground dimensions? I don't know.
Well, that's the feeling that a lot of people seem to have, is perhaps the ground dimensions being a little bit smaller suit the style of play that we're playing at the moment. But yeah, look, there's still a lot of footy to go. I think we've only got 2 other games at Etihad. Finals aren't going to take place at Etihad, so. You know, we've got to get used to the G. You know, we're not an Etihad Stadium team, so. You know, we do have to play there a couple of times, but that's not our hunting ground, and you know, we have to learn to play the G.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
All right, so tonight we are going to be joined shortly by a very special guest. We've got Mitch Hannan coming on in just a few moments. We're going to take a quick break. I might get Grapeviney to restart his phone and see if that solves the issue that we're having at the moment. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few moments with Mitch Hannan.
Garlett jumps in. Still a chance. Neil Bullen smothered this time. Hannan. First game, 23 years of age, walking to the big time. Punch from 3 deep either. Got it down to ground. Hannan. Unbelievable pick up in the run from a guy playing his first game. And that's his second goal.
Back to full forward. McDonald looks well placed. Got there with Hogan. Skirting the pack was Hannan. And he gets it together and puts it through. And there's more high fives for the Dees.
Well, our guest tonight burst onto the AFL scene in round 1 of last year, kicking 2 goals on debut, winning a Mark of the Year nomination in round 10 and finishing with 22 goals for the season, playing at half forward. He's won a VFL premiership with the Bulldogs before joining the Dees, and was a vital cog in Sunday's win over the Bombers. Welcome to the Demonland podcast, Mitch Hannan.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, Mitch. First things first, you know, it's great for the club to get back on the winning list on Sunday, and from a personal perspective, you arguably played your best game for the club with a career-high 18 disposals, 3 goals and some ferocious tackling. You can't ask much more than that, can you?
That's right, yeah. No, I was quite happy with my performance, but like you said, it was good as well for the team to get back on the winners list. I think after a couple of probably disappointing loss, it was good to sort of show some of the things we've been working throughout the week, and it came out on the weekend with a good victory.
It certainly did. The competition for spots in your part of the ground is pretty hot. Now we've got Jake Melksham, Bailey Fritsch, Jeff Garlett, and now Charlie Spargo. They've all shown their wares since the start of the season. You found yourself back at Casey a couple of weeks ago. That competition must keep you on your toes.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's something that probably wasn't there last year, obviously with the inclusions of Spargo and Fritsch. So it definitely keeps us on our toes to sort of fight for positions. But it's probably a healthy thing to have. It keeps everyone, an onus on everyone to sort of perform on a weekly basis to make sure the team's performing. So, but I'm just glad to be back in there at the moment. So.
Well, you certainly know where the goals are, and we've known about that since you made your debut. What else do the coaches want from you? Is it more involvement in the game, more disposals, or greater pressure and defensive efforts when the ball comes to the ground inside 50, or is it sort of a combination of all those things?
Yeah, it's probably a combination of all those things. A half-forward role, it's a weird one. You're not necessarily always the main target up forward, but you're left to sort of pick up the crumbs. So there's a lot of things that don't necessarily go down on the stat sheet, which are seen as quite vital for a half-forward role. So like you said, those pressure acts, tackles, which obviously get counted, spoils, chase downs, and just sort of keeping the ball in the forward half to sort of give us a sort of a repeat look at goals. So for me personally, I'd like to say I can sort of compete tall and small. So I just, whenever the ball's in the air, I've got to fly for it. And if it's on the ground, try and get those sort of crumbing goals. So if I can get a sort of a good mix of those sort of things, doesn't necessarily have to be high disposals, but a good presence and pressure down in the forward line, that's probably going to help me sort of hold my spot.
Well, that one of the tackles that you laid on the weekend was just it was ferocious. It was fantastic. Do you recall the one that I'm talking about? I think it was on McNeese.
I do. Yeah, that was against. I think it was against Bagley. Is that right?
I thought it was McNeese. That's what the commentator said, but I'm not sure. I think it was number 12, but it was a fantastic tackle anyway.
Yeah, it is. It's something we work on. We have been working on over the pre-season down at the Demons. So with some extra tackling and craft around the technique around it, was good to sort of put that on show on the weekend and sort of be able to stick a few. So, but like I said, as a half forward, that's probably one of our main roles, is to sort of put that pressure on. So to see that sort of come out was pleasing for me.
Tell us a little bit about Charlie Spargo, because he looked very comfortable out there on Sunday and seemed to slot, really well into that into the forward line.
Yeah, he did. He's a ripping fella, Charlie. So it's good to have him in the team just for his personality, because he's a naturally sort of upbeat young fella. But he sort of came into the year probably not putting too much expectations on himself, just thinking he'd have a development year. But he's probably a little bit further down the track than he thought. He's pretty solidly built and pretty quick, but mainly I reckon he makes some really good decisions. So as you saw on the weekend, he was at the feet of a couple of drop of balls and managed to kick himself a couple of goals and hold his own against some bigger bodies. So I'm sure that even though he will continue to develop, he would have gained a lot of confidence out of that game, knowing that he can match it with AFL players.
Yeah. And Bailey Fritsch, he's been the other surprise packet this season, although for those of us who have seen him at Casey, we're not surprised at all. People have said all along that he's naturally gifted with beautiful skills, and he's certainly shown that in the games that he's played to date.
He absolutely has. He's everyone knows it, I reckon, down at Demons. He's absolute pure silk, Bailey Fritsch. His kicking just looks like it comes so naturally to him, and he's just highly talented. So it's good to see him sort of follow a similar pathway to myself through the VFL, and then all of a sudden to get his opportunity so early in the year. So yeah, he's definitely someone that I think a lot of the guys like having down in the forward line, purely just with his class and his ability to take good marks and over the top of a lot of people that are sort of a lot sizier than him. But that's something that'll come. It came for me as well, being a little bit undersized in your first year. But I'm sure he'll grow and put on a bit of weight, and he'll be a good player for us at Melbourne.
how important is the flexibility and versatility of the forward line? Because you, Bailey and Christian Petracca are all very capable in the air, despite not being sort of that big-bodied key position players.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely very important, especially when we've got the likes of Hogan, Wiedemann and Tom McDonald flying for marks. It's probably important that we're wary of what's around us and who's flying at the ball, because myself and Bailey and Christian can all play small forward, so it's probably important we're not all flying for the same mark, and that sort of comes around creating a bit of chemistry, knowing your teammates and understanding what's happening in a game to sort of be able to understand what the right thing for us to do is as hybrid sort of half forwards, whether to go in the air or go on the ground. And I think that's something it's been slowly improving ever since myself, Bailey and the likes of Christian and Spargo have come into a similar forward line.
Do you want to spend time through the middle of the ground, or are you happy with the half forward and around the goals?
I think my time at Footscray I spent primarily as a half forward. So I'd say over the last 4 years, my role has been as a half forward, which is probably more of what I've been known to do. But personally, I'd love to get up into the midfield. It's probably a little bit hard at the moment with some big names in there of Clayton and Christian's moving in there now, Petracca and obviously Jones still, and the likes of a few others. But I'd love to get through the midfield. It doesn't have to be a permanent role for me, but I'm happy to do a bit of pinch hitting and sort of provide a bit of energy and spark in the middle, and then also be able to sort of float back down towards half forward and play what probably comes a little bit more natural to me.
So we spoke about your marking ability, but the other trick up your sleeve is an incredible capacity to get the boot to ball very quickly around the goals. Is that something you've always had, or is that's just a natural ability, or?
It's probably something it's come natural for me. I know, like coming into AFL games, one of the things I was most nervous about was the fast pace and the intensity of it. So I probably just wanted to get ball to boot initially as quick as possible, so I wasn't going to get tackled. but like you've seen, it's already carried out through my game. If the opportunity's there, which for a small forward can sometimes be limited. You're not always necessarily leading up to the ball and taking a mark, going back and having a set shot. So when you get those opportunities around goal, it's sort of to kick a little quick snap out of a pack. I don't know, I guess it just comes natural to me. It's a split-second decision to sort of understand where the goals are, get the ball to boot, and then hopefully see it sail through.
Well, you had to get your boot to ball very quickly when you were gifted a punch from Joe Danaher the other day. That sort of came unexpected, and you didn't have much room between you and the goal line and getting your foot to the ball, and you did that beautifully.
Thank you very much.
So you've played 14 games for the Bulldogs in the VFL, including a premiership against Casey in 2016. And prior to that, you won a flag with St Bernard's in the VAFA before being drafted by the Dees. So can you tell us a little bit about that transition from amateur footy into the VFL, and then from the VFL into the AFL? Because you took that leap pretty quickly. And I mean, how they differ from each other, in intensity.
Yeah, you're right. It happened all quite quickly for me, the transition through from VAFA, which I guess you could say was sort of local football, through to the VFL and then now into the AFL. But for me, I was playing under 19s in the VAFA, and then quickly found myself sort of playing senior football. And I think initially the reasoning behind that was I was quite a late developer. I didn't really grow until I was about 18, 19. And then, as you know, when you grow, you sort of string out a little bit. So from there, I still had to put a bit of weight on and get used to sort of my size. So when I was coming through the junior ranks, I missed out on probably a lot of sort of tack up footy, or that normal pathway that your average AFL footballer probably finds himself in. So I was left sort of playing senior football with St Bernard's, and was given an opportunity to play in the half forward line as an under 19, and then eventually found myself in the midfield and started to play some good footy. And I think just being in that sort of system was lucky for me that I found myself with the right contacts to get down to a VFL club in Footscray. And then likewise, opportunity comes through an AFL list that might be depleted with some injury, and you get a go as a 23rd man or whatever it is. But it all happened pretty quick for me. I was playing St Bernard's, and then before I knew it, I was playing Footscray. Played 4 games in my first year, and suffered some small injuries along the way. But the pace probably of the game from VAFL level to VFL to AFL has probably grown on me as my body's grown. I think I've got used to it as it's come. So initially I found VFL quite hard to deal with, and then as I got used to it and my body got bigger and stronger, I kept up with the pace of the game, and I think that also happened in terms of AFL last year for me as well.
So you were overlooked for TAC Cup because as you spoke before, you were a late bloomer. You were deemed to be too small, and then I see that you're listed as being 189 centimetres on the club's website. And I also read somewhere that you grew, was it 14 centimetres or something after under 18s?
It was something outrageous like that. I think I was just 18 and sort of struggling to crack into for me it was the Calder Cannons. And then, I think it was within about 12 to 18 months, it was about 14 centimetres, which is quite a lot to deal with. You get a little bit of growing pains, and your body weight doesn't change much until you begin to fill out. So you're right, it was something that sort of happened quite rapidly, and probably long term has helped me sort of adapt to some of the footy that I'm playing now. But at 189, I'm pretty happy with the height I ended up with. I was getting worried there for a while.
What was your thinking at that stage, like when you didn't make TAC Cup? Did you think that an AFL career might have bypassed you, or did it just make you more determined to try and get a spot on the list through other avenues?
Yeah, I think some of those thoughts are pretty natural. I was a little bit quite flat at the idea of not making a list. I was told by Calder Cannons that I wasn't going to be a part of the squad, and where I was living at the time, I was also eligible to go down to the Bendigo Pioneers and try out there, and I got the same sort of feedback and didn't make the list. So I did. I went back to local football and just really wanted to enjoy it for what it was for a little while. So the desire probably got lost a little bit, and I went back to a point where I wanted to just have fun. But as soon as I started growing and playing some good footy, you definitely start to begin to think that playing at the highest level would become a dream again.
So you also played some of your junior footy with fellow Demon Pat McKenna. Can you tell us a bit about him and where he's at? Because he seems to have just had an absolute horror run with injuries over the last 2 years. Yeah,
he really has. Pat he's a great man. He's probably one of my good friends down at the club, and he's had a tough time with injury. But I've known him for years now as a local sort of Gisborne boy. He's a couple of years younger than me, or maybe a year younger than me. But funnily enough, we played a bit of footy together back in the day because he was quite the gun and forced to sort of play upper level a couple of games every Saturday morning. So and I played with his brother as well at the time. So he was always definitely a gifted footballer and cricketer, as you may know.
Yeah.
And so I've known Pat for a while, and his time at Melbourne has definitely been a bit of a treacherous run for him. I think he's definitely got a lot of talent and skill to sort of still provide, but hasn't been able to put it on show due to his hamstring. But I think he's tracking quite well at the moment, which is good. He's had setback after setback, which is very disappointing for him because it was initially just a hamstring that needed some surgery that was 8 to 12 weeks or something like that, and then it's just really prolonged out to a sort of 12, 14-month injury for him. So I hope for him that he's able to get back and play some. I'm sure it'll be probably through the VFL at the midpoint of the year, and then be able to string some games together to sort of show off the skill that I know he has.
Yeah, let's fingers crossed for him. We read last week that Jake Lever has quit social media as it was negatively impacting him mentally. Are you on Twitter and social media channels, and what are your thoughts on this issue? Because some so-called fans can be absolutely devastating in their criticism, and some people, and it's a small percentage of them, seem to have no qualms in making it personal.
It's an interesting one. I didn't know Jake had gone and done that, but that's probably for the best, I'd reckon. I have a Twitter account, but I actually well, I think you can delete Twitter, but I deleted the app probably about 6 to 12 months ago, purely because I wasn't really using it enough and got little interest out of it. But I'm on the other platforms and I'm following football pages and stuff like that. But I think you're right. A footballer's mind frame is to sort of trust what you're hearing from the coaches and trust your teammates and try to sort of keep the information that you think about how you're playing within the four walls of the football club. And a lot of that external noise can definitely sort of cloud someone's thoughts and definitely impact the way that they're playing. And you're right, those things that you see and read and on social media can be quite personal and negative, especially after a bad loss. So I think it's probably for the best for the wider football community to probably avoid reading those kind of comments.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I just, these days, it's easy for you to sort of stay away from perhaps websites or fan sites and stuff like that. But with social media where you're also using it to keep in touch with friends and that type of thing, to in this day and age, people now can direct message you, and it's it's given sort of celebrities and sports people or fans direct access to celebrities and sports people, and it can be used for good, but it can also negatively impact people. And yeah, it's probably a smart decision to sort of stay away from reading that stuff. I read that that you're an architect or were working for an architect. Or you were? Is that something you want to do after footy?
Yeah, it was. Also, I was doing a course. I finished a course in architectural drafting. So, sort of technically, I'm seen as a draftsman, and I was working in a firm in the city for 10 months up until the point where I got drafted. So, yeah, that was something I was loving and enjoying. But to be honest, the sort of the tedious life of sort of sitting behind a computer was probably not for me, which I found myself doing a lot. So football definitely came at the right time for me. I do enjoy architecture and design, but I think in terms of a post-football career, I'll be looking for something in a similar field in terms of construction, design and property. I'm just sort of looking for that at the moment. So I'm doing a bunch of work experience with some contacts through the club in some property investment and project management type sort of roles. So for me, I'll be sort of putting the feelers out and seeing what kind of suits me, and then hopefully, whilst I'm still at Melbourne, I'll be able to do some form of study to sort of lead into something post-football.
Nice. Well, if any of our listeners want to help Mitch out, Mitch, I just want to thank you for your time tonight. Very generous of you to give us your time, and we really appreciate it, and we look forward to the rest of the year, and hopefully we see a lot more of you and a lot more wins on the board.
Yeah, exactly right. All the best for us.
All right. Thanks, Mitch. I really appreciate it.
No worries, Eddie. Thanks very much for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Cheers.
Well, that was Mitch Hannan. Very appreciative of Mitch and the club for allowing him to come on to the Demonland podcast tonight. We decided to, just prior to the interview, to dump Grapeviney because his connection kept dropping out. I might try to get him back on the horn now and see if that situation has improved. If you would like to call the show, you can call 03 9016 3666. That's 03 9016 3666, or you can Skype me on Demonland 31. We might need you on as a co-host if I can't get Grapeviney on a decent connection. So not sure whether it's him or me. I'll suspect that it's him, but he might disagree. So I'll try and get him back on now. We do want Grapeviney to come back because I'd love to talk about the win last week, and failing him not coming on and not getting any calls, well, we'll might leave it there. But Grapeviney, are you back, and are we dropping out every second word?
I think I'm back. I hope I'm back.
Well, I can hear you, but can you hear me is the question.
Yes, I can for the moment.
All right, well, let's continue on, and if we have to cut the show short, we'll cut it short and just leave it at a fantastic interview with Mitch Hannan. Grapevine, were you able to listen to the interview?
Yep, softly spoken. He was, Mitch.
Mild-mannered, I would call it.
Yes, but as you said, he a few ferocious tackles on the weekend, so that would have impressed the coach, no doubt.
Yeah, I love it.
He's got a bit of bite when he gets on the field, so good to see.
Yeah, I love seeing a small forward being ferocious, and I think seeing more of that from him would be great. And even Charlie Spargo this week showed that he's he can pick up possessions and also be ferocious and attack the footy and the man. And it's a good thing to have that. Drunken 167 mentioned in the chat room that he's getting dropouts. Are you getting dropouts when I'm talking, or is it just Grapeviney? I just want to sort of ascertain whether it's my connection.
No. I was hearing dropouts. During the interview.
Oh, so it's got to be my connection. All right, what I might do is...
I've got a feeling it's yours.
All right. What I might do is I might restart my computer. We'll come back on and continue on with the show. This is live radio, folks, and these things sometimes happen. So I might restart my computer and we'll come back in a moment. All right, we're back. You might get some dropouts listening in the chat room. Grapeviney and I connected via phone connection now, so we won't drop out between the two of us. We'll be able to record the show, and if we do drop out, you can listen to us on the replay. But bear with us. Can anyone in the chat room let me know if you are hearing some dropouts from us, just so I know. Grapeviney, welcome back to the Demonland podcast.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy being demoted to the twos and being left out of the interview, so I know what Mitch was feeling, having to go back to Casey, and I know what Brendan McCartney's feeling, having been demoted to the bench, according to Tom Morris, who I see no longer has his position at the club podcast.
Is that confirmed? I know that I think it was Katie Price filled in last week, but is that the same case this week, or has something been said officially by the club?
No. I think it just happened quietly. These things, I think it's... But that's confirmed, yes.
All right. Well, what we can do, we can get you to record your questions, and I can cut and paste them into the interview, and then on the repeat, people will hear the dulcet tones of Grapeviney asking a couple of questions.
Yeah, like cutaways.
Yes, we can do that. This day and age, anything is possible. It was nice hearing from Mitch. Seems to have a good head on his shoulders, and I thought he played his best game for the Dees this week. It was, I think, his equal second highest possessions, equaled his highest goals. I think he's kicked 3 a couple of times. But yeah, it was a great effort from Mitch on the weekend.
Yeah, well, it just adds that sort of versatility and flexibility. We haven't really seen fly for the ball so much yet this year, but that's part of his game. But good to see him bringing the defensive and pressure work and getting among the goals and getting a bit more of the footy too. I think the knock-on end, if there has been one, is that needs to get involved in the game more. So. He certainly did that on the weekend.
Yeah, he did, and we spoke to him, about that. The competition for spots in the forward line is, we've got a lot of strings to the bow, and if a couple fall away with form, we've got guys in the twos. I mean, Jeffy, he'd had a couple of lean weeks, but I'm sure he'll be raring to get back into the team. So if any one of Spargo or Hannan sort of drop off, we do have Jeffy to come back and possibly Buggy in the not too distant future. So it's good to have that competition for spots.
I think Buggy's a fair way back. I don't think the arrival of Spargo necessarily means the end of Garlett. But it does start to get a bit crowded in there if you've got Garlett, Spargo, Hannan, Fritsch, Melksham, and, potentially Petrarca all in there. So, it'll be interesting to see. Jeffy, by all reports, didn't have a great game on the weekend. So it'll be interesting to see. You presume he won't get recalled this week. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with regards to him.
Well, considering how all the small forwards did in the ones, I don't think anyone's going to lose their spot. Spargo kicked 2, Hannan kicked 3, Fritsch kicked 3, Melksham, did he kick 2 or 1? I'm not sure.
3, I think.
3. Well, and he was getting a lot of the ball, and those spots in the forward line, they're going to be hard to come by if these guys keep up that effort. And with a few easier games, and I don't like to say it because no game, I don't think, when it concerns the Dees, can be put down as a win. Let's hope these guys continue that. And as Drunken167 said in the, he might have been talking about Tim Smith. He reckons Tim Smith had a great game in the 2s and said his tackling pressure was insane. But I thought our tackling in our forward line was pretty good too, sort of bottling up in there. We also saw the return of T-Mac to the team. I thought he was great, sort of all around the ground. He brings a lot of versatility to the team. We can throw him forward, throw him back. He sort of was playing all over the ground. What did you think of T-Mac?
I thought starting him on a wing
was
or
strange.
having him play off the wing was strange. I don't know about that, but look, he's sort of a bit of a follower in that he's good all around the ground and provides that marking option. Always good in the contest, and look, I think he only played about 70% game time on the weekend, so it was a good game from him considering first game back, and he'll only get better, you'd think. And we'll get back to what he was doing last year, which was just great. So good return. We really missed him.
Yeah, we did miss him. I think not having him and Viney for a good chunk of the season, we missed him. We really did, and I'll be looking forward to the other one, Viney, coming back in the next few weeks, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. Our defence, I thought, was a lot better this week. I think Hibbert's hitting his straps again. Off the halfback, some of his clearance of the ball out of halfback was great. I thought Jeddah did a fantastic job on Tip and Woody. And Jake Lever getting better every single week. It's great. And once again, Omac, hats off to him, not putting a foot wrong this year. So how did you see our backline functioning?
There's one particular thread on Demonland where a few posters are trying to point out some sort of howler that they think Oscar McDonald made, which is a big stretch because it's certainly not a howler. But you're right, and it's just a matter of time. It's a result of time, and they've gelled together. Now they've had 6 rounds, and it's starting to bear fruit. And it's not surprising that we're seeing the individual players getting back to their best form, as well as playing really well together collectively, which they're starting to do now.
I don't get why people have such a bug up their bum about Omac. You can't expect a guy to not make any mistakes in a game, and they're few and far between. So I don't care if someone has a hat.
But it's not just about mistakes. It's also sides kick goals.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get beaten, and sometimes it's not even your fault. It's something that happened up the ground that makes your prospects of spoiling difficult, or stopping the goal. So goals get kicked against you. It's a part of football, and not every one of them is a mistake, and not every one of them is a howler.
Yeah, I think there are some fans that expect not a goal to be kicked by the opposition whenever we play, and it's going to happen. They've people not been watching footy for 100 and however many years. It's going to happen. I think he's been fantastic this year, and it's proven. I think there were a lot of people, myself included, in the beginning, were thinking, why are they persisting, or with Oscar. That I didn't at the time. I didn't think he was ready. I would have liked to have seen him go through the twos a bit more. But the coaches had faith, and it's paying off now. And I'm glad that I was wrong, and I'm glad that a lot of people out there were wrong, because he's now extremely important cog in the wheel.
But that's the answer to your original question of why do people have such a bee in their bonnet about OMAC. Many people are wrong. And some of them are having trouble eating their slice of humble pie, unfortunately, and that's why you have these ridiculous assertions of him supposedly committing howlers on the weekend. Salem's kick-in, that was a howler.
Yep.
So don't devalue the language by abusing it that way.
Drunken167 says that Omac has the most time on ground for any AFL player this season, and he says he thinks that speaks a lot for his necessity and skill as a key position defender. I couldn't agree more. Dealt Fart in the chat room says Hunty is still searching for his mojo. I think he did a few good things on the weekend, but I think we've got to persist with Hunt. He'll find that mojo again.
I think it's almost back. I agree. He's starting to show a bit of a run again. Disposal letting him down.
Yep.
I think he just needs to get a bit more composure before he uses the ball. But I think Hunt is an important part of the team. He gives us a run that not too many others do.
If you would like to join us on the show tonight, 039016 3666. That's 039016 3666. Or you can Skype us, Demonland 31. Love to take your calls and hear how you saw the game last week. Also,
whose form did make me happy, and this is something we discussed last week with Nasher when he was on, and that's Angus Brayshaw. Back to the middle, in the centre of the ground, back to clearing the footy. I thought he had a great game. He was crucial in that third quarter when we got on top, and really exciting stuff from him. And I think that's where he belongs. Salem seemed to do pretty well off half-back, so the switch there from Angus at half-back into the middle and Salem going back, I think worked for both players and the team on the weekend.
Well, we did talk about that last week. We were talking about why isn't Angus, in the middle, and I was rapt when I saw him lining up there, and he was there for most of the game. And I agree with you. I think he has to play most of his footy there, and I'm glad that he's getting that opportunity. And I think, Salem's out for the next couple of weeks, I think. At least 1 week, if not more. And therefore Brayshaw will definitely get more time in the middle. And, I'd love to see him play more time through there because it seems like that's his natural position.
Yep. Bidman says that the whole team is still looking for its mojo. I think it partly got it back in the third quarter or in the second half against Essendon. I think the 7 goals, is proof of that and will assist in the getting back of the rest of the mojo.
Well,
I think we're back on the right track.
Well, we know that we can play footy like that, and that's the conundrum that we're in because we can't seem to play 4 quarters of that footy, and this week proved that. Hopefully that was the turning of the corner that we needed, but the first half was atrocious, and I thought Essendon should have been up by more, but that was also because I think they're playing just as bad as we are at the moment. But I still think we should have been a little bit further behind at halftime, and we were lucky to be sort of a goal in it. But we've got to play 4 quarters of that. I still can't trust the Dees at the moment. I know what they can do. I know they can have those 7-goal quarters, but we've got to start putting that 4 quarters of that together. And when we do, then it's look out. But until then, I can't rest easy at all.
Yep.
Who else caught your eye this week? I was very happy with Fritsch. I put a post on Facebook for the Demonland page that I think he has to sort of be, form permitted part of our team. I think. Do we know why he was left out? Was that arresting him, or was he dropped at that time a couple of weeks ago? Because I think he's an important part of the team.
Yeah. Look, I don't know whether it's just managing him, through his first year. Given the short break over these coming weeks, or in the weeks just gone. So I agree with that. But he's isn't it funny? There's all that talk of Hogan in the middle, and athletic types and 190 centimetre plus midfielders, and yet here's a guy that doesn't look like that at all, and yet he's just got beautiful natural skills and talent. His kicking of the footy is a delight to watch.
Yep.
Just run through, very smooth, fluent action, and it works. Surprise, surprise. Who would have thunk, hey?
Yeah, he's also got a beautiful mark on him, which we knew. And there was one, you hit the nail on it, he's kicking superb. There was one time he was running in, he was outside 50, and I thought he was having a shot at goal. It's the one that Max Gawn marked sort of in the points area and then kicked his first banana. I thought he was having goals, but a bad kick. But I actually think he was aiming for Max on the goal line there. And Max Gawn, didn't he have a great game? I think he got the all 10 Coaches Awards votes. Just getting better and better every week and proving, back to sort of all Australian form.
Well, we finally saw, well, Goody called it the connection, I think, but we finally saw hit-outs to advantage.
Yeah.
And really, strong clearances from Jones and Brayshaw, I think, had 15 between them. So that's what, Max has been, pardon me, getting the hit-outs but not getting the reward for effort, and they were able to do that on the weekend.
Well, I think we had 16 to force in centre clearances, which is just a fantastic stat, and that's that comes down to Maxi, knowing his players really well. I don't know if the stoppages they won 24-22. I think that's where we've got to sort of improve our game a bit and get a few more. We got the clearances out there, but we were equal on the day. So I'd like to see us sort of smash teams on those around the ground clearances as well.
bit of banter in the chat room about the fact that it's good to see Essendon get burnt by Melksham and Hibbert, who are both in very good form on the weekend, and it is because there's a particular loathing for Essendon, which was only increased because of the whole drug saga, and Nash is right that it's great to see Melksham in particular, Brendan, because they always rated Hibbert and they didn't want to lose Hibbert, but Melksham was very much a whipping boy for them, and I'm sure many of them would have been happy to see him discarded, and they're not too happy to see him succeeding at Melbourne, which he's certainly doing.
Well, I had some Essendon supporters around me on the weekend, and they were filthy at those two. Every time they went near the ball, they got sprays from these opposition supporters. But I was quite happy when, sort of, not even midway through the last quarter, these guys made a quiet exit out of the ground. So, yeah.
Well, how's this? I was sitting up on the top deck, just on the wing. I went on my own. And I always try to sit next to Melbourne supporters so that, I won't get annoyed by opposition supporters. So I sat next to a Melbourne supporter. You know what he did? He clapped Essendon goals.
What?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that
bizarre.
before.
Not all of them, but some of them. Like the ones which he must have thought were sort of good goals, or whether it's players he liked. It was just, I couldn't believe it. Who does that?
Yeah, I certainly don't. The only clapping sound you hear is my hand thumping my leg or the seat in front of me or beside me. I was going to call that mobile number where you report the antisocial behaviour and just say this guy's lost the plot. Yeah,
he's got a Melbourne cap and a Melbourne scarf and clapping Essendon goals.
Maybe he was a little bit colourblind. Although we did have the royal blue Guernseys on this week, so yeah, I don't know. That's a strange one. I must admit, when I see a great mark, sort of a specky from our opposition, I sort of, well done, but I didn't really clap it. But yep, as Destroy All in the chat room says, what a good sport. I hate him.
Yeah, well, I hated him within minutes of sitting down. Anyway. We push on. You
should report him to the club and have his membership stripped. Yep. Okay. So we talked Maxi. Anyone else that you give a nod to this week?
Well, Spargo obviously had a great debut, and a bit like, I think as you said in the interview with Mitch, we just seemed to settle right in and look like he'd been there forever and a day. Yeah. So, very promising signs on debut.
Yep, that's what you want to see. I think he had quite a bit of the ball as well. He had Spargo had 18 possessions as well. He had. It's interesting because he had only 4 kicks but 14 handballs. And I saw a few times he'd take a mark sort of up the field and, like Vince would be sort of nearby and call for the handball and, being the new guy in the team rather than take the kick or whatever, give a handball off. So I saw a little bit of that. But that's fair enough. When you're the junior member of the team, you're going to sort of defer to your senior players.
Some of his handballs were really good.
Yeah, I wasn't saying they weren't.
Unlike many of his teammates, they were perfectly positioned that the player didn't have to break stride to get them, and also didn't run into a wall of opposition players. So he seems to just have footy smarts about him. So definitely one to watch. George on the Adders asked about Nev Jetta. We did mention Nev definitely played his best games of the year.
Yeah,
so,
we did.
He was back to his very best. Super Nev.
I'm just wondering whether, are you guys in the chat room, are you still getting any dropouts from us? Or just curious, just for my own knowledge. I just want to know what's happening. We did mention Neville. I said, when we were talking about our backline, I really thought they started to gel and played well together. Now, Sam Wiedemann, I think he only had the 9 possessions, and 3 marks, but I think he's starting to get there. I think we've got to persist with him, particularly over the next 3 weeks against, well, what's supposed to be weaker opposition. I'd like to keep him in the team for another couple of weeks. What are your thoughts on Sam?
He had a much better second half than first half.
Yeah.
He didn't see a lot of it in the first half, but he did compete and bring the ball to ground, which is which is one of his roles. Clunked a couple of nice marks. I think was it the third quarter or the last quarter? So
yeah.
Look, some people are still calling for Peterson to be brought in. That's not going to happen. If Wiedemann goes, it'll be for a smaller setup, and he won't be replaced by Wiedemann. He won't be replaced by Peterson. But I suspect he'll stay in the team this week and quite probably beyond.
Yeah, I think they might be going down the Oscar McDonald route for Wiedemann and just playing him. I like Peterson, I really do, but I think the coaches are looking towards the future and beyond 2018 as well. You got to sort of play for the games that you've got, but I think they sort of want to get the game time into him. And I think we'll definitely see him for the next couple of weeks. Look, form will dictate. They can't keep him in there if he's not going to be touching the ball. But yeah, I'll have a keen eye on watching him the next few weeks, and I would like to see him take a lot more marks, feature on the scoreboard as well, as long as he's making a contest and taking away a decent defender away from Jesse and perhaps Tom McDonald. Then that's a good thing too. There were a couple of players I was very disappointed in this week, and I don't know. I think the patience is running a bit thin on them, and for me, that's the 3 players who I'll target this week: Neil Bullen, Dom Tyson, and James Harmes. I think Harmes, he had in patches he was better than he has been last week. He had 23 possessions. So maybe I'll take the blowtorch off him a little, but Neil Bullen with only 8 disposals is pretty poor.
Yeah, not in good form at the minute, Neil Bullen. Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed just because he had a ripper pre-season. He was, one of the training the house down. But yeah, I have been a little disappointed, a bit underwhelmed by him because even while I was watching some of the highlights of Mitch Hannan when I was pulling some audio for him, Neil Bullen featured in a lot of those things, and he was getting the ball in the forward line, he was kicking goals as well. Not seeing sort of that of him, not seeing the forward pressure, and really needs to lift his game a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think his sort of disposals and decision making and composure at its best is sort of average. And then I think as we talked about before, you get guys like sort of Spargo and Fritsch who are just at a different level with their skills and decision making. So no doubt he works hard, but is that sort of enough going forward?
Yeah, I'm just a bit disappointed because I thought he had a great year last year and he was showing a lot, and then the pre-season came and he was training the house down, and he was the fittest guy in the team, but want to see a bit more output from him. And we've got Viney coming back in the next few weeks, so watch this space. Yeah. All right. I think we've pretty much covered most of all the players. Pretty much. Jonesy had a great game, I thought as well. In the middle, people might say, "Oh, why didn't you talk about Jonesy?" But Jonesy does what Jonesy does, and does it well. Can't casting your eye onto the injury list, have you noticed that our injury list is steadily growing at the moment, or is it just me being paranoid?
Well, I noticed that in the chat room there's talk about Fritsch potentially being out.
Oh, no, you're killing me.
Because of soreness.
Who's brought that one up?
No, we don't. Nasha says it's on the AFL app, I think.
On the
I
AFL app?
can't find any other reference to it.
All right, let's hope the AFL app.
So,
Let's hope the AFL app has no idea what they're talking about, like they do most times. D Old Fart is saying that some people are suggesting Alex Neil-Bullen as a tagging role. Well, I'm up for anything. But yeah, our injury list is sort of growing. We've got Balak out still for 2 to 3 weeks, which is a real shame because I would like to see him play a bit more. Now, I believe he had a hamstring initially, but I see it's being listed as a plantar fascia. Were you aware of that? So that's no good. You don't really want those type of injuries. How serious is Jesse Hogan's knee/ankle? We know that he got a knee knock, but there was the issue with an ankle as well. So I'm not sure whether it is the knee or the ankle or both.
Well, he did finish out on the ground, or he certainly came back after going off for a while. I saw a picture of him on Instagram today, and he had his ankle bandaged up, but he was very lightly bandaged. I think it said test, so we'll have to see how he pulls up. They wouldn't risk him if there's any chance of it getting worse, but he got the knee knock in the Richmond game, so they were happy for him to play on the weekend.
So Kent's still out hamstring. He's got 4 to 5 weeks. Mitch King, elbow, 5 to 6 weeks. Corey Maynard, a new injury on the injury list, 6 to 8 weeks. Now, that's really got to be a setback to his career because, like, this year was, sort of a year for him to sort of get into that midfield. And, form has kept him out of the team, and now an injury that doesn't bode well for him. Probably won't see him till the latter half of the year. And then he's got to sort of work his way back into the team. So not great for him. Now, the Petrarca one's an interesting one. Didn't realise how serious it was. Read during the week, I saw an interview with him that amputation was on the table. Very extreme.
I don't know whether, it was a real option. It's one of the possibilities, one of the outcomes that can happen if it's left untreated. And the infection sort of takes hold, and it's not too difficult for that to happen. But, the journo's obviously gone for the sensational bit of the story. Because I saw that headline today, and I doubt he was close to amputation stage, but apparently they've had to do more surgery on it, so that's no good, and we might not see him this week.
I don't think we'll see him at all. I don't think there's a chance we'll see him this week. But yeah, that's quite serious. So he got bitten, and I didn't realise that until a few days ago, that he actually was bitten prior to the Richmond game, then just sort of, he said, yes. I think he said he just spoke to his doctor, and he just taped it up and played on. Then after the game, it was, a bit pussy and disgusting, and sort of then was told go straight into the emergency room, and then was booked in for surgery the next day. I didn't realise it was that serious.
When he says his doctor, is he talking about his family doctor, or is he talking about the club doctor?
Well, I'm not sure. I know, having known a club doctor in the past, I know that the players are calling them at all hours of day and night for everything. You want to take a tablet for a headache, you call the club doctor.
Yes.
So I'm assuming it's the club doctor, but I don't know. Maybe he's got a good relationship with his GP.
No, I've just wondered whether players don't bother with their family doctor while they're at the club because they've got, because they've got all that medical staff on staff.
Well, you would think, from it would probably go through that because they'd have, you don't have to go and pay for the Not saying that he can't go visit his GP and pay for it, but it's all probably through Medicare. I don't know how it all works with the club, but that'd probably go through the club. You would think, but you would think with a dog bite they would have probably called him in to have a look at it. So I'm not sure what's actually transpired there, but it is what it is, and I doubt he's going to play this week, considering that he hasn't. He was in the hospital bed up until a day or so ago. And Bin Man has said, no, not more surgery. Fake news. He had the initial surgery. Is that my iPhone going off or yours? Doing Siri?
Not mine.
Oh. All right. It's bloody Siri. So stays in hospital to ensure the wound is good.
Story all said earlier in the night, it's one of those Russian bots that's got into the system.
I think so.
And is planting fake news. So, yes.
Yeah. And then to find out that Salem, broke his thumb was also news. Did you know that on the day that he had broken his thumb? No. So he's had surgery. You would expect that's at least 2 weeks, if not more.
Yeah, they said 1, didn't they?
Yeah, but it's surgery on a thumb. You would think he'd have to have it in some type of brace. Are they allowed to play with their hand, in one of those brace things, those plastic brace things? I don't think so.
Yeah, players have done that before.
They do? They can? Okay, so they're allowed to play in those. All right, well, maybe it is 1 week, but, this list is getting longer and longer. Van, as we know, is out for a while, and then we've got Jack Viney, who's raring to go. What do you think they're going to do with him? He's saying he wants to play next week against Gold Coast. Do you think they will play him in the twos before then? Well, not even before that. I don't think he'll play this week. Do you think that they'll play him in the twos in round 8?
I would have thought so.
Or go straight into the ones?
No. Look, he's done some running, hasn't he? Although he spent quite a few weeks. It was near a few weeks off legs most recently, so yeah, I would have thought he'll come back through Casey.
I would play him in a wheelchair. But that's just me. George on the outer is saying it's not just us. Adelaide, Collingwood, Geelong, Gold Coast, GWS all announced players injured who played last week. All right.
I feel for Salem because he just can't get a long stretch of consecutive games together. If it's not this, it's that. So he'd be really frustrated.
Destroy All says we rushed Viney back last time. We won't do it this time. But I don't know. I don't think it's a matter of rushing him back. I think he's pretty much ready to go. It's just a matter of whether they want to get some time in the twos before he comes back or not, just to get some match fitness up. I don't think you wouldn't think he's still under an injury cloud. It's more of a fitness and being able to run out a match type thing, you would think. That's in my unprofessional opinion. So, any news from the Casey match? Maybe we need Drunken 167 to let us know what happened at Casey. But from all reports of stuff that I read, it was quite underwhelming. And I'm talking about in terms of the players who would likely to be pushing for selection. Is there anyone in the twos that would be?
Well, I think as Drunken said, Tim Smith was probably the best of the bad bunch for the most part.
And unfortunately for Tim, it doesn't look like there's spots in the forward line available. So it's not like we had anyone who had a shocker. And unless Jesse doesn't pull up, Drunken, if you are listening, give us a call in. He just sent me a message on Skype, so please do call in if you want to give us your Casey report. We'd love love to hear it. So yeah, give us a call. You've got the Skype number. Give us a call. Let us know who played well in the Magoos and if anyone is pushing in. And we do have Drunken on the phone now. Good evening, Drunken 167. How you going, mate?
Evening, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, doing really well, thank you. You ready to give us a report of the twos?
Yeah. So it was an interesting game. Casey obviously haven't been beaten at home for a long time, but Geelong managed to absolutely just run rings around them. They were just all over them for the first 3.5 quarters. They had more numbers around the ball, were better at pressuring, had better key position players. They had some good AFL listed players. Wiley Buzzer, Zach Smith, Cremeri was playing. He kicked a couple goals. So it was a tough game for the Casey boys. But as you said, there wasn't a lot of guys putting their hands up. But I can't understate how good of a game Tim Smith had. Some of the hits and some of the bumps and some of the tackles he made were as good as I've ever seen. So I would not be surprised, especially since I'm pretty sure he's been emergency listed for the last few weeks. Would not be surprised if he gets a game this week.
Yeah, the only reason I could see him getting a game would be, as I said before, if Jesse doesn't pull up well. But other than that, I don't think anyone's going to get dropped to make way for him. So unless they think they need another sort of bigger forward there, I can't see him getting a game despite the report about him that you've just given us.
Yeah, look, because obviously we're going to have a couple of sore boys coming off the small break.
Yep.
With obviously Hogan, Track's still under a cloud. So if there is room for him, I definitely expect him to come in if they need him to.
And Jeffy Garlett, how did he go, or did he not feature at all?
Well, so he started really strong. His first quarter, he played a lot of the game on the ball, had a few good clearances, and was really sort of strong. But I didn't really, after sort of the first quarter and a half, I didn't really notice him that much, probably because Geelong was sort of just all over it. But looking at his stats, he had, I think it was 18 or 19 touches. He had quite a few tackles, but I think that's just more because Geelong had the ball that much. The tackle numbers were a bit high. So he had a couple of times he went to the forward line and was able to get a few little kicks around the corner to hit someone up or do a little couple of handballs, but it definitely wasn't his best game. So, I don't think he'd be coming in for contention this week.
Is it strange, and Grapevine, I might ask you, is it strange that they played him on the ball? Is that just to get him into the action, to get get some kilometres in his legs or something like that? Considering he's not going to play on the ball in the ones, is that strange to you?
Who are we talking about?
Jeffy Garlett.
Oh, no, he's had he's had the occasional stint on the ball in the ones.
Yeah, but he's
not.
It's
just a running off the back. No, look, he's not going to do it in the ones. I would have thought it's just to get him, try and get his hands on the footy a bit, basically.
Yeah.
And get his confidence up.
Yeah, obviously that's a directive from the senior coaching staff. They're obviously going to dictate where they want him playing. So, yep, there's a rhyme to the reason. So, yeah, anyone else that's who are the senior players that were playing? Considering we've got injuries, Tommy Bug, how was he?
He was very quiet. It's similar to Jeff. He had quite a number of tackles, but otherwise he was sort of rarely noticed. JKH had, I don't want to sort of dig into the bloke, but he had a pretty terrible game. He only had 12 touches, I think. Barely did anything for it. But Billy Stretch was good, but he just, every time he had the ball, he didn't really do anything well with it. I think you've seen that when he plays seniors, he sort of struggled a bit with his disposal. Oscar Baker, he has had a very good start of the season. He little things that he does and little runs and little So the pressure things he does is very.
Where are they playing him?
So he sort of rotates between half back, wing, and half forward.
Yep.
He's sort of that running because he's got a good. I think he's got a good amount of endurance on him. They sort of pushed him forward because they were sort of struggling for forward targets, and I think he kicked 2 goals within about 5 minutes. But no, he's been impressive. I just saw someone in the chat rooms asked about Dion Johnston.
Yep.
I really liked Dion, and I still like Dion, but he's had a pretty poor start to the season. I don't know if he's had some injuries and maybe come off a poor pre-season, but he hasn't been as good as I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, it seems like he's a long way away from getting a game, if at all. So I was hoping he'd have played already by now, but as the years go on, if he's not getting a game in the ones, I don't know.
You'll definitely have to have a good end of this season to sort of keep going, get another contract.
How'd your brother go?
Yeah, so Dex struggling for form at the moment. Because he had a strong pre-season, but then he copped a couple of late injuries. So first VFL pre-season game, third quarter, he was running back with a flight, copped a knee in the ribs and cracked his rib. That put him out for a few weeks. And then the Tuesday before the round 1, the VFL, he rolled his ankle at training. And that was still giving him a bit of grief up until last week. So he's like last week was against Geelong. He was not too bad. I think he was on Crameri a lot, and I don't think Crameri kicked a goal, or either they kicked 1 goal. And he did a few nice spoils and stuff. He's just sort of struggling a bit for form at the moment. So hopefully, once he gets over these little injury niggles over the next couple of weeks, he can start sort of getting back to his best footy.
And I guess the other 2 that I'm interested in, because there's a possibility with Salem out that they might get a look in, Joel Smith and Josh Wagner.
Yeah, so Wagner was the held over emergency for the weekend, so he didn't play. But he's been playing pretty well in the seniors, I think. Like, he cops a fair bit of criticism, especially on Demonland.
Yeah. But
I think he could slot back into the team quite easily. And Joel Smith, because he played pretty well. He sort of didn't have that aerial presence, which he's sort of renowned for on the weekend. But no, he's not doing too bad. I think because he was coming off a couple of injuries as well, I think. So it might take him a couple of weeks just to get back to his best.
All right. Well, thank you for that report. It's good to have someone who goes to Casey and can give us that insight into that. But I'm not all that confident about anyone coming in at the moment.
I will say, look, football was a very, very reactive sport, and because it wasn't Casey's best game, you can sort of look at a lot of negatives where if we won, I wouldn't have been anywhere near as negative on most of the players I would have thought. And that happens with every game and every team. So, but as you said, like, because we do have a few injuries at the moment, we'll see what happens.
Yes, we will. Grapeviney, any questions for our Casey correspondent?
No, I think he's covered it pretty comprehensively.
Yeah, I think we need to get you on every week to give us that. I don't get to see many Casey games, so it's great that you're out there and supporting the boys and your brother, and thank you very much for that.
Thanks, guys. Well, one last thing before I go. Just with Bailey Fritsch, like a lot of people knew that he had skill, but when I first started talking him up on Demonland, I copped a little bit of criticism, saying I didn't really know what I was talking about. And I just want to basically say I told you so. He is an absolute gun.
Stick it right up him. That's what we did. We stuck it right up him.
Well, you heard it first. Drunken 167. He did call it very early, and yes, I'm wrapped with Bailey as a player, and I think I've been saying it all this pre-season. He needs to be in the team. Until his form drops off, he's got to be one, up there with one of the first ones picked, because I really like the kid, and he's doing everything right at the moment.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great bloke, and he's just super skillful, and I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah.
All
right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, mate. Not a problem. We'll speak to you next week.
All right. See you, mate.
Cheers. All right, there's our Casey correspondent, Drunken167. It's great to have someone who's actually watching the game rather than me just peruse the thread whilst we're doing the show and just parroting basically what he's been saying. I didn't get to ask him that question, but maybe Drunken in the chat room can answer this question. What are the chances of Baker debuting this year? So, Drunken, if you want to answer that in the chat room, you can. Changes, Grapeviney, for this week against St Kilda. We'll just talk about the game against St Kilda. I'm a little bit worried. I don't like it when our opposition are getting absolutely caned in the media in the week prior to us playing them. And certainly St Kilda have been copping it from all angles, getting a lot of criticism for their kicking, their skills, their supposed A-grade players not kicking on. It worries me. I'm assuming it doesn't worry you as much. I'm more negative than you are. What do you think?
No, well, it happened to Essendon in the week leading up. They copped it after the Collingwood game.
Yeah, but we copped it too, so one of us had to respond.
St Kilda are really ordinary, and we should be comprehensively accounting for them on the weekend, and I think we will.
Yeah, Drunken did reply to that. He said that referring to Oscar Baker, if he keeps getting better each week, it's pretty likely that he will debut this year. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Ginger Ninja gracing the field for the Dees. So, with that, changes this week. People were saying Petrarca in and A and B out, but that's not going to happen. I don't think Petrarca's going to come in this week. What changes are made this week? It sounds like no one from the Magoos is going to come in unless Jesse is out. Then you might see Tim Smith coming in. Can you see any? Well, obviously a change needs to be made for Salem. So who's likely to come in for him?
Not sure on that.
Wagner probably. Joel Smith was named. Was Joel Smith named last week in the extended bench initially?
Yes.
And was Wagner as well?
Not sure about Wags.
Well, it's one of those two you would think would replace him. That's my thinking. Just out of necessity. I don't think anyone else can go out. Petrarca, I'm calling it now. I don't think he'll play. If he does play, as Bin Man in the chat room has said, he reckons Track will play. If he does play, who comes out? Some saying Tyson, some saying Neil Bullen.
Neil Bullen for mine.
Yeah, Clint Biscuit saying Petrarca no chance. So some of us are going to be right, some of us are going to be wrong. I don't think he'll personally will play. But then coming in next week, it could be two big ins with Viney possibly back. But I can't wait for Viney to be back. Miss the guy, and I think our engine room misses him too. So we've got 3 big weeks of footy ahead of us. 3 very winnable games, and as I said before, that worries me. But it really, if we can get 3 wins out of the next 3 weeks, it sets up the season for us, and perhaps we can try and claw back a bit of percentage that, we're severely lacking at the moment, and we all know about percentage because every goal, every point is going to count, and did count last year.
No, David Mitch is not my dad, but the poster, David Mitch is my dad, has suggested Mitch should come in. Do you reckon it really is David Mitch's son? Does he have a, it could be a daughter, I suppose, a son or a daughter? And is that you?
I would say it's fairly unlikely that David Neitz is my dad, the poster, not David Neitz being my dad. I would say it's very unlikely that he is the son of David Neitz or the daughter. But I'd take Neitz. I saw he sat near me, or sat near us, in the Richmond game a couple of weeks ago, and I'd still play him out there. Big guy.
Yep. Looks to still be in pretty good nick.
But next 3 weeks, massive for us.
I don't buy into that talk that it's any more massive than the 3 weeks that'll follow after that. I expect we're going to win the next 3 weeks, and it doesn't take the pressure off the week after.
No. But and not even that it takes the pressure off the year. It's got we need. I'm more saying we need to win those 3 games, because we've got a tough run home, and that's getting very ahead of ourselves. But our last 3 games of the year are going to be bloody tough games of the year. And if we're pushing for finals, those 3 teams will play. I think we play Swans, West Coast, and GWS in the last 3 weeks. And I guess if you're, if you want to make finals, they're the teams you're going to play. So.
And that's not going to come. It's not going to boil down to whether we beat Carlton in round 7 or 8 or whatever it is. So, I don't buy into this notion that we have to be a certain number before we go into the home stretch, because you've got to be able to beat the better teams if you're going to be right up there. So, and they're the real games that test you, not knocking off St Kilda and Carlton. That should be done. That should be done as a matter of course.
Yes, you're right. If anyone wants to give us a call before we start wrapping things up, 0390163666, or you can Skype us on Demonland 31. Unleash Hell in the chat room says the Saints took it up to the Hawks and GWS. The comp's close. Don't write it as a win just yet. And that's why I don't get why people are saying the Saints are so terrible, because
I've watched them play a few games this year, and most of the time that I've spent watching them, they've been terrible.
All right.
I agree with Unleash Hell. The comp is close, and as we've seen, any team, or most teams, can beat most other teams on any given day. They've played some pretty ordinary footy this year.
Agreed. All right, I'll have to agree with that, because I haven't seen them play enough footy to make a decision on that. Just before we go, we often complain, or I certainly do, about the umpires. A stat came out during the week of the free kick differential for 2017 and 2018, and we just missed out on making the finals of that one. We've in 9th spot with a -4 differential. So
basically middle of the competition, and we've almost had identical number of frees fallen against.
Yeah. Look, in isolation, I don't think that those stats really matter, because different things affect where the free kicks are given. A big bugbear of mine is the free kicks not given, and that's where I think we cop it the most. But I think even the Western Bulldogs, who are plus 92 in their favour of free kicks, 4, would probably think they get a horrid run from the ump. So, yeah.
I watched the Richmond game on replay, the Richmond-Collingwood game on replay, when I got home from our match. Richmond throw the ball, and they need to get called out on that. All these bloody hand passes over the head. That needs to just be a throw.
Yeah, I was going to say that when we play, Cochin a few times when we played them just did those handballs over the head.
All game. When
we were growing up, they actually made a point at one stage that was a throw. I remember that. So what happened to that? Is that just the interpretation? Yeah. What's that? That's when we talk about free kicks and umpire. That part of our game, that 1 week they will just focus on one thing, and we saw in round 1 and 2 they were doing that whole 50-metre penalty when someone, inadvertently sort of ran near the guy with the ball. But, now they've sort of forgotten about that. I actually think we got a free kick for that the other day, but it's been forgotten, and I don't like these 1 week free kicks of a free kick 1 week and then the next week they've forgotten. It's a real blight on it. That's a blight. There's been a lot of talk this week that the whole congestion and everything is ruining the game and all that. But I think the interpretation of the rules differing from 1 week to the next is a bigger blight on our game than anything else at the moment.
Yep.
All right. Well, is there anything else from you, Grapeviney? Anything from the website this week that's caught your fancy? Anything you want to get off your chest?
No, I've said my piece.
You've said your piece. All right. Hopefully we didn't have any more dropouts, and it was just an anomaly. It's a bit frustrating when you don't know exactly what it is that's causing it, but these things happen with technology. We'll be back next week with another fantastic episode of the Demonland podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Mitch Hannan and the Melbourne Football Club for coming on to the podcast this week. Thank you, Grapeviney, for joining us again. And thank you to Drunken167 for giving us his Casey report. Go Dees.
Go Dees.